He burst onto our screens at the tender age of just 11, starring as Tegs in Grange Hill, before going on to the likes of EastEnders, Dangerfield and Holby City. So what's he been up to since his poster boy days of the 90s? Here to tell us, please welcome Sean Maguire.
Situation,
I sympathise, I do.
It's just a thing. We have bodies.
But on TV, people just go, oh, you sweat.
I know, like a normal human being.
Yeah.
Now, listen, you're looking very tanned and brown. Is that from your trip to Greece?
Yes, yeah. Unlike a lot of other things about the trip, the weather was quite nice.
Yeah.
It's not going to stay that long. It's not going to stay very nice for too long, because they've had kind of quite heavy snow there the last 2 years, which is so that's a bit of a serious thing for a lot of the people that are in the camps and the people.
So you were visiting refugee camps in Lesbos, was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few camps in sort of 5 different islands, but Lesbos is sort of the Camp Moria is sort of kind of one of the main ones, and coming from people that are sort of fleeing from Turkey, going over to there.
So what took you there, and what did you see there?
Oh, a lot that was hard to kind of forget. It started because, like a lot of people, I'd seen a lot of the footage, you know, some of those really kind of are now iconic pictures of children and stuff like that. And I'm, you know, my wife and I are father of a 2-year-old, and we have another baby on the way. And I think it just sort of brought everything a little closer to home. You start kind of thinking, these are real people. I mean, I know that we get separated by politics or our nationality or anything like that, but they're humans, you know, and I think when you see kids especially, it's very hard to just go, oh, well, it's not my problem. And so it started off having seen after a long time of shouting at the TV and crying a little bit, I sort of said to my wife, we should do something. And because I've been on a television show in America called Once Upon a Time, which has a very big audience, not so much in the UK, but around the world, it allowed me to kind of build up a kind of following on social media and stuff like that. And so I was kind of trying to use that little bit of celebrity that I had to kind of steer the spotlight over to what we saw. So and then I sort of became involved with working with Oxfam, who are an incredible organisation.
What are the conditions like?
I mean, I don't want to depress everyone, but the way I've described it is it's sort of like those scenes at the end of you know, those dystopian future movies where you sort of see kind of the end of the world sort of thing. You see people that, I mean, families of 4 and 5 living in a tent no bigger than this. And, you know, there's supposed to be 1,500 people in that camp. There's over 5,000 now, and that number keeps growing. And so the people that are arriving there, there's, you know, I think we all have the impression that a refugee camp is, once they've fled that difficult area, that they're going to get somewhere that is going to be better. And you know, we spoke to lots of people that had fled Afghanistan. We spoke to one woman in particular whose husband had been murdered by the Taliban, and I was sitting there with my wife and her 2 kids, and this kid was kind of eating chocolate ice cream, and I said, do you want some ice cream? Because I'm guessing, you know, a 4-year-old boy's not going to have ice cream very often. And when his mother started talking about how her husband was killed by the Taliban, then she showed me a picture of his dead body, and the kid just kind of put his ice cream down and kind of pushed it away. It was just... there was a million little things like that. It's very difficult for it not to hit you.
Can we just have a look, actually? We managed to get some footage of you there. And one of the things I think that's so moving, Sean, is many of us will have seen the same pictures on the news and just thought that was sad and changed the channel. You actually went there. But let's take a look.
Each one of these life jackets obviously represents somebody that's made this crossing. And if you look over here, look, for children, look. Imagine if your kid, this is what's keeping them alive. This was their best option. It was better to do this than to stay where they were.
I think what's so moving, Sean, is the fact that every one of those life jackets represents a human being.
Yeah.
And in some cases, children on their own. Didn't you come across one child who'd just been put in a boat
Yeah,
on his
I
own?
mean, everything about the trip, it just sort of feels surreal because as you get used to seeing these images, but when you're actually there in person, it hits you in a different way. And we just had a day where we just left that, they call that the graveyard, where all the life jackets are, and we'd gone to go and eat, myself and the photographer and the people from Oxfam and everything, and I was talking to this incredible photographer who's so brave, goes to all these different conflict zones. His wife is a Doctor Without Borders, and he was saying to me, this port, this is actually where the boats come in, and as we're having this conversation, it was really late, it was about 10 o'clock, it was cold, it was dark, we see these Coast Guards running around on walkie-talkies. He said, there's a boat coming in, and I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And so we saw this boat come in with 34 men, women and children. They're cold, they're frightened, but they think that their redemption is within grasp. And there was a 10-year-old boy. My wife was a detective with the Metropolitan Police and is much tougher than I am, and she doesn't cry like I do. But when we saw this, there was a 10-year-old boy, and they said, where's your mum and dad? And he said, through an interpreter, no mum and dad. They just put me on the boat because that was the best option. It's like, we're probably going to get killed. You might make it, so we're going to put you on this boat and let's just hope that somebody somewhere will take pity.
I have a 10-year-old and I couldn't imagine...
When you transfer it to your own life, all of a
that.
sudden it stops becoming a TV show.
And all of this you're watching while your wife is 7 months pregnant.
Yes. Yeah. So she's really... you know, when we were asked would we go, because originally I was going to go to Somalia, and I said, look, I've got to selfishly put my own family first. And they said, well, would Tanya go because it would really help bring a human interest element to the story? And I said, I mean, she's 7 months pregnant, going, you know, a lot of pregnant women don't want to go
She's
to...
obviously tougher than you
Oh,
are.
my God.
Wanted to go.
She's so much tougher than me. And,
what an incredible thing to do, honestly.
We absolutely applaud you, both of you. Thank you for raising awareness on that today. Sean Maguire, sadly, that is it for today. We've got some great guests lined up for you next week, including we've got Louis Walsh, Gino DeCampo and John Barrowman. Will he fall off our set? You need to tune in to find out. And don't miss Tuesday's Halloween special. Even Janet's getting dressed up. See you then.